Well, hello and welcome. We are back for week two, race two of season 2, 2021-22 for America West. We are bookending this week's racing. We started off, of course, with the Premier League and then APAC last night. I am Kate Bates, joined by the wonderful Dave Towle. It's been a little bit since we've called together. So, Dave, I'm a bit excited to be here today. You've just come off America East. It's a pretty good night of racing ahead, isn't it?
Yeah, Kate, you would love this course as a former world champion. And let me say, Kate, you are a legend. It feels so awesome to be back with the team here, with Nathan producing for us. But hey, this is a points race. It's as simple as that. You might as well be on a monster velodrome. The laps are about 5.5K, but you're sprinting, and they make such a big difference. They really, really do. I think you would have loved this one. There's not a ton of vertical gain. It's not completely flat, but it's certainly a racer's course. And yeah, the bonus system here makes for great racing. And we've got a nice group of women to get after it out here. We're going to find out who the real sprinters are, though, Kate.
Yeah, we certainly are, Dave. And you're spot on. I would have absolutely loved this course. Look, it's not technically dead flat, but it may as well be for all the impact that actually has in the race. We will jump down as soon as there's pictures because there will be a lot of action out on course. Now, they do 6 laps, so it's 38.2 kilometres, but they do have a lead in. And in the lead in, there is a sprint already at the 5.2K mark. There's then 6 in between then and the finish. Dave, it's pretty full on, and for anybody going flat chat for that first sprint, they'd want to make sure they're fit enough to recover from it. This is my first week in America West in this season, but I'm really pleased to see some of the names that I love from some of the earliest seasons already putting their noses out there. Kat Salthouse and Joy Connolly, of course, I'm very happy to see them out there because then I know it's going to be fantastic racing. And of course, Danny Torelli for DDC, she will be primed and ready to go for today.
And I will counter you, Kate Bates, with an Allison Grinnell, a Hannah Stallkamp, a Jennifer Chieda, Joy Connolly, Kat Salthouse. As you mentioned, these are the names that we've really come to get to know. Janelle Yila as well, Dutch Diesel Cycling. I've done some research in my time away, Kate, and again, it is just feels so good. It seems like many, many moons since we've had a chance to commentate together. So Dutch Diesel Cycling. Did you get the lowdown on that team? Because we do know it's a train locomotive, huge train locomotive, but it's a
Okay.
coach and a coaching service here in the United States that they call Dutch Diesel.
Oh,
And so, yeah, it's a brand, is a better way to put it.
oh, cool. All
That's your
right.
friend
Well, it's an
Daniela
appropriate
Torelli.
name, isn't it, for the kind of riders that they have on board. I feel like they've perfectly named that and brought everybody on board. Almost like with a pre-screening, like, are you a workhorse? Are you an incredible bike rider? Tick, you can come on our team.
Are you willing to work harder than the rest? That kind of thing. Exactly. You got to tick those
Yeah.
boxes. So we're going to find out because you see the 1K kite. This is a key indicator. So I don't know how APAC went with Anna Russell. Anna Russell just actually had a fantastic race earlier in America's. Only about an hour ago that wrapped up. But out here, we have seen anything you can imagine. Just it comes at you left, right, and center. But it looks like we might get a straight up sprint. We should mention for folks just joining us here for America's West that the Aero helmet, the draft van, and the ghost of invisibility. We've seen people use that pretty well throughout the day, Kate, the ghost. But I think that Aero helmet is the most desirable. I know that Aero helmet's the most desirable to have for the finish here. For a sprint coming up quickly.
Look, it is. The first sprint is coming up quickly. Now, this one is a lead in after they cross the line here. Then it will be 6 laps left to run for them. So it is a very fast course. You know, when they go around the U-turn, that in the mall, they're not too far off getting to that sprint. It is less than a kilometre after that. The ghost you mentioned. Now, let's just see how this sprint plays out
Here we
before we
go.
delve into the
Yeah.
use of the ghost. But they've hit out pretty early with some pretty big powers.
Yeah, that's Dutch Diesel all over that race now. So let's see how that one scores. This is the points tally from week 1, Kate, that we're looking at now. Dutch Diesel was the top team with ATP Racing Vespid second. We'll have a chance. There's a lot of data to take in, but so Dutch Diesel come in only one race into the season, however. So everybody's still in the mix with Cadence sitting in third, Alta Velotonitas in fourth. But it'll be interesting. It looked like Dutch Diesel, though, doing what they do very well with Megan Alexander, Daniela Torelli, Janelle Yila, Julie Gallagher, Pat Murray. And I think that Judy Hay has joined the team out here. But as you said, Kate, you can see some riders are going to fight to try to rejoin now after a brutal hello, how are you doing?
It was isn't it? Now we're 5 minutes to the start of the men's race. By the time they get out on course, there will have already been some pretty big mushroom clouds happening within the women. I'm really pleased, Dave, that you said Anna Russell did really well in her race, because I was giving out a lot of tips about sprinting last night. She's not known for her sprinting prowess.
Coaching her up.
But well, kudos to her. She's a very good student. And we had a little bit of fun last night watching the athletes. And we also, because, look, the broadcast is on a little bit of a delay, right? So we're not giving away if we say anybody's dropping a ghost. It's delayed enough that we're not actually giving away their tactics if they're also watching the broadcast while they're competing. But what we did find last night, Dave, is that a lot of the athletes were watching the broadcast while they were competing. And because it was the 6 laps, they were actually kind of adjusting their tactics based on the feedback we were giving, which was really cool to watch, actually.
Interesting.
And it resulted in some really, really interesting racing and moves. So big shout out to them for doing that, and also to Anna Russell for giving it a crack. Let's take a look at these segment points. Yella for the win there. Now, I'm not sure, Dave, if you saw the breakdown from Zwift Insider about how to win the overall point system, breaking down the first across line, fastest through sprint, and the finish points. Very interesting, though. It did come down to the finish was obviously very important, and also the first across line weighed a little bit more heavily. So I think we might see some riders strategically targeting a few sprints rather than going for all 6 of them and saving themselves for that back end a little bit. We did see that a bit last night. So Murray came across the line first, actually, but Yella with her fastest through segment is sitting on the top of the points chart. Isn't that an interesting one, Dave, to consider that you can still be the fastest through segment without being the first across the line, and that perhaps some people are specifically sprinting from further back in the pack to get that added draft and that added carrot to chase in order to get that fastest through segment?
Yeah, Pat Murray, a very savvy rider. Going back to your previous point, Kate, absolutely. You see teams that were targeting some of the early sprints. Look at Wahoo Lacole in Premier League women's race yesterday, using Lizzie Brooke early. And Lizzie picked up quite a few points before she kind of turned over the reins to a breakthrough star, Zoe Langham, who came out of the community racing an EMEA. That Wahoo Lacole program has been really impressive across the board, men and women. It's really women and men, to tell you the truth, as it seems like they might have more women than men. But fastest through segment is interesting because there's a lot of points there. This is something you don't see in Premier League, but Kate, with 20 points for the fastest through the segment, and then you can see it's 10 deep how they score that versus 10 deep for the first across the line, which comes up, it repeats itself pretty frequently. As we said, 6 laps once they get onto course proper, which they are right now. 10 deep, but only 10 points distributed from 10 down to 1 here. So taking a look at the group right now, getting...
Sorry, Dave. I was just going to say, I think you need one of Anna Russell's whiteboards to be able to figure out the thing there. And you know who Anna Wilson is. Dave, she's been on my mind this Australian week.
It's funny. It's funny you say that. I just saw a picture of her. She rode for the Saturn team for a few years here in the
Sh
States,
she
and
did,
was
yeah.
the UCI World overall leader for World Cup leader many years. Right? I mean, absolute Australian legend.
She was. Yeah, and we've just had Australian nationals over the weekend. So we've seen a lot of the APAC riders. Dave, it was so cool. I saw a lot of them riding in real life. And we had, I'm not sure if you remember one of our riders from last season, Nash, Clara Nash, and she rode the Elite Women's Road Race, and she's just brilliant and fantastic on Zwift. But it was the first time she'd ever ridden an in real life road race,
Wow.
so it was pretty amazing to see it
How'd she
happening the other
go?
way around. Now she did
How'd
really
she do?
well. She had a bit of a attack off the front at one point and really showed her face. The distance got her a bit in the end, but huge kudos to her. She also won a gold medal in the club team's time trial. So she went away with a striped green and gold jersey. She'd be happy with that. But any of the
That's really
Aussies, just
cool.
watch out for them, Dave, because they're on form at the moment. So we do
Yeah.
have Megan Alexander in the women's. The men are out on course now, Dave. They've also got this lead-in sprint at 5.2 kilometres, and then onto that sprint every lap in earnest. Who are you looking at in the men? I need to take a look and see how many of my favies might be turning up in the men as well.
Well, Aiden Oliphant is back, which is cool. On the Obsque Finesse presented by Wolf team, jumping over and taking a look at the guys. Their sprint comes up pretty quickly. Again, as Kate put absolutely correctly, they're sprinting as they enter course proper here, so that's less than 5K away. The women will be sprinting next, however, as they're 1K away from another bonus sprint. So that peloton motoring through the first quarter of their race. The guys just getting out on course. Lot of excitement. I was happy to see my man Rowan Dennis pick up another Australian national championship now with
Yes,
Jumbo. So,
indeed.
yep.
Yes.
I'm glad you got to be a part of that. It must have been, I know it's been tough. Australia, my goodness, have you, every morning I wake up to what's the latest with Djokovic over there. I'm glad that that's
Oh,
finally been
no,
resolved.
he's gone now, Dave.
That went on way too long.
He's been
Yeah.
sent on his. Yes, how's
They,
that for a bit of a
they,
political hand grenade? Whitney
yes.
Post, look at this. How
Good
good
for
is
her.
this move? Look at this massive power, and we got a bit of a from our producer there. Now, something I love about the move that she just did is, in my opinion, Dave, this might be controversial. Happy to debate it. That is the only way to use that ghost,
No,
to
I'm not
attack
debating.
using
I'm
the
with you.
ghost.
Is it enough? Come on, Whitney, as the finish line comes up so slowly. It's like racing through quicksand out here in Dutch. It's a yip again. Going to make the catch at the line. Whitney Post gave a valiant effort. I was saying, having the ghost versus the arrow helmet is a bit like showing up, Kate, at a gunfight with a knife. Right, they've got you there. So you kind of have to learn how to throw that knife. Then you got to do
It's
something a
it.
little. You got to zig when they zag.
I've missed your cliches, Dave. Haven't I missed them? But you're spot on. Really interesting in the first couple of laps of APAC, because the ghost is, you don't get it too often. So I feel like
No,
still when it pops up, you're like, what do I do with this? But we saw a lot of people dropping it like in the middle of a sprint. And I was like, I was quite open about it to Anna. I said, that is really not that smart to do. It is just a complete waste, because if 10 of them are dropping the ghost together in the middle of that sprint, then it's just, it's just not that smart, Dave. I'm not saying anybody in this race it's not the smartest move. So I do like to see when
well,
they do it with the attacks.
Kate, I've missed you. I really have. Did you notice with the anvil? One thing that we learned was, you to get rid of a power up, the ghost. If you want to dump it, let's say, um, you don't have to use it to get rid of it. Now that the ghost doesn't really matter. I'd say it's kind of
Mm.
neither here nor there on that one. But the anvil, if you use that on the flat or a slight uphill, that's a major bummer. Actually, as
Well,
we
I
saw riders
see.
come out of the group.
I still reckon you could use the anvil at the exact moment in your sprint where you are accelerating, just a couple of
Oh
moments
my
before
gosh,
you hit peak
master class
power,
stuff. Yeah, no,
because then it would give you that extra momentum to get on top of that. I really think there is a way to use it in a flat sprint, but you'd have to play around with it beforehand, which is
this
hard,
sounds like
right?
something.
It's
Yeah,
hard
this
to do that, but I really do reckon you could kind of hack it a bit to work, but it could go very badly. So you'd have to be a little bit brave and prepared for it to go. There's a saying in Australia. It's not very PC, Dave, but it's hump day here in Australia, Wednesday, so I'm going to say it anyway. We would say that it goes tits up, if that makes
yeah,
sense to you.
right. Oh, that saying it might be worldwide. But yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. So again, though, I'm with you on that. Let's go back in because the guys, Kate, have got their sprint coming up. Uh, oh, by the way, missing you last week. You would have loved it. Philippe Nystrom from the Oh My God They Killed Kenny team won
Oh,
the race. And since
stop
we met
it.
Philippe, guess what? He's going to World Championships for cyclocross, representing Costa
Is
Rica.
he? That
Yeah,
is
it's a huge deal.
sensational.
So he's met all of
I'm
the
a big
Wout van
fan of
Aerts.
his.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy, Kate.
And he's
So,
out there tonight. I just furiously scrolled through Zwift Power to see if he is, and he's just cruising kind of mid pack, which is great. This will be another good course for him. I've actually got my highlighters in a bit of overload tonight, Dave,
yeah.
because I've got quite a few that I've highlighted as uh, could be quite dangerous on this course.
Yeah, it's all orange and pink and yellow, I'm sure, on your sheet as we. So make sure you highlight Philippe, though. Certainly, it looks like we're going to have a bunch kick here as they're inside of 1K. This is going to tell us a lot about that. Looking at last week and see On the Rivet Hayes was second in the team competition, which is the competition. Dirty Rascals Riot third, On the Rivet Rush in fourth, and TFC Scorpion in fifth there. That could change quite a bit. We're only one race into the season. You can see now the van, unfortunately, is a bit of a bummer. That's not the power up that you're looking for, Kate. Obviously, you do what you can with what you have where you are. And oh my God, the Killed Kenny's going to open this one up. So sprint underway. We're locked and loaded, Kate Bates. Kate
Gee, that
numbers
that
from
is
B.
a
Diddy.
big opener, isn't it? But he's. I'm not sure that dropping it. He's using a whole lot of energy. He will get these points, but I reckon he'll pay for it. Big move from Mog, and this is highlighted that it's dangerous to go too early here. Was that Dan Pedrosa?
It was. You nailed it.
I think he got over the top there. He's
Signature move.
actually. Look, he's fourth on my little highlighter list, but that's probably more where he was sitting in the bunch when I went through it, to be honest. Let's
Taking a
take a
look
look
at a
at the
replay.
replay. Now, Mog hit out very early, Dave, but geez, they absolutely blew right by him. But where's Pedrosa at this point? He comes from way back.
Yeah, that's been the story of this sprint, the surge that happens here in the last 50K. Kate, very reminiscent of racing in the velodrome coming out of turn 4 into the straightaway to the finish line,
It
right?
is.
Things change
It
quite a bit.
is. Yeah.
Again, it plays out that way. It's absolutely brilliant racing. So we'll score those points, add them to the tally as the guys now are up on the scoreboard. They have a lot of points ahead of them, only a few behind them right now. This is so much
I'm
fun.
just going through the OMG team list, and crikey, they've lined up with a huge hitter gang, like between Nystrom and Pedrosa, Peter Mogg, massive effort from him there to line it up for them as well. Uh,
Jeffrey
it's a
Homer.
very, very, yes, it's a very, very impressive squad they've got on the line. So there you
Murderers
go.
Row here. Yeah. Terrifying if you saw these guys all in a police lineup.
Well, and Travis Frazier's one of my favies from earlier seasons as well. I think he's always a bit of the smoky, I reckon, in the group because he's really dynamic, but he can actually climb pretty well too and hang on. So, which won't help him too much today, I might add, but it might help him next week when they're in New York.
Yeah, it's interesting. These sprints, they're so You go through so much with sprint after sprint. You made a great point in the previous that you make these huge efforts to get the 10, 9, 8 points in the early sprints, and you're going to find yourself going to the well too many times. And by the fourth, fifth lap, it might be dry when you pull your bucket up.
Mm.
And,
Well,
you know,
it's an interesting, Dave, because God, I love your analogies. The well where you dry your bucket. I'm going to write these down. I need Nathan to record these in the background for me, please. Is that when I said that as well, I didn't appreciate in that moment that he and Nystrom and Fraser and Pedrosa were all on the same team. So if I look back at that with a different lens on looking at that, what a sensational move from him, because I'm supposing if he can do that a few times, set them up, lead it out, prevent any late attacks through those sprints, or in fact any attacks over the top because it's been so quick, it doesn't really matter if he suffers for it at the back end. So I certainly would not be hitting out that early if you weren't doing it in the name of team, because, as
he's
you use
starting
that
the
perfect
fire,
bucket
isn't
and
he?
well analogy.
Yeah,
Exactly.
he's So this is Brett Boniface, Kate. This predates our time commentating together. Where when I first started working with Nathan and Zwift Community Live, he was one of the big stars, and then a bit of a slow period, and now he is back and attacking, open up an 8-second gap. Really talented rider is Brett Boniface here. So this is going to go. Certainly, you wonder, is anyone going to go up and try to join him here? We saw Bruce Bird, the draft rider, another Canadian, doing similar moves, but never opened up this large of a gap by himself, Kate. So 8 seconds. Next sprint, call it about 11K in. This certainly looks good for at least those 10 points, but things can change quickly. What do you think of this move, Kate Bates? This
It's
is
a
like that
really
rider
good
trying to
move,
take a
and
lap, trying to take a lap at the
it
points
is.
race.
Yeah, I respect that. I respect brave moves. Like my favorite riders tend not to
Bold,
be the ones that are
yes.
always on the top. I like the brave, bold ones. But I was having a giggle to myself, Dave, because I was looking at his name, and in my head, I was going a little bit Sopranos and calling him Boniface.
Boniface.
And so
That's
then
so
when
funny. I
you
used to
said
do that.
Boniface, I was like, oh, there you go.
No, I think
Maybe
it should
maybe
be
not a New York
Boniface.
gangster.
Yes.
Actually, I don't even know where the Sopranos are set. Is that set in New York? I don't know.
New Jersey, but
Chicago,
absolutely
maybe?
he
New
no
Jersey.
he would
Okay, all right.
he probably has a job in the sanitation industry. Like um,
I love it. Apologies, Brett, for what we are doing to your character right now. Um,
we're gonna go
but it is
back,
he's in a
Kate.
very good position, Dave. Yeah, sorry, we're going back to the
No, I
women.
agree. Yeah, we're gonna take a look at their third sprint now. Oh, how I've missed you, Kate Bates. So, Dutch Diesel, get used to this orange and blue jersey here. There's the finish line. Nathan does just an amazing job producing. So this sprint happened just a couple minutes ago, as we'll score the top 10 spots. And they're coming up on the middle part of their race now.
Well,
So
Brittany
Dutch Diesel.
Keskinen, that was a big sprint from her. But Ashley Yip, where did that come from? She pulled that out. That was really impressive. She's, shall we say, not necessarily known for her explosive sprint, but that was a
She's
very
moving on
good way
up.
to get those maximum points, isn't she?
Yeah, no, a great call, Kate. Ashley Yip has clearly been doing her homework. And that's, you know, interesting concept there, right? Do you train to your strengths or to your weaknesses? And I've seen more than a few riders that, have been working on their sprint because it's a tool that you need to have. You want to be that true 3-tool athlete out here. Sprinting is one of the tools that you have to have along with climbing and time trialing. Let's go back. Brett Boniface is still away, Kate.
Yes, our sanitation Boniface. He's doing really well. Now, 9 seconds, we usually say, this is from Anna, but, she's the one with the whiteboard, so we'll take it. Usually 15 seconds and you're pretty safe. I don't reckon there's any gap where you're safe on this kind of course, because of the sheer speed the bunch can gain. Now, they are coming back very, very quickly. They won't get him before this sprint. He will be able to take maximum points. but only 3 seconds behind, and it's Juricic. Ooh, another one who I'm really excited to see back taking the second there. Can I just say, OMG are doing a beautiful, beautiful job strategically here to pick up a lot of those points for that overall. Very good job by Boniface to, and I apologise to him in advance, but I will keep calling him that, to take those points. But that's a hard way to do it, isn't it, Dave? Like that's,
That's
there's
a
a lot of
lot of
effort that had to go into
calories.
that break.
Yes.
And look at it, it's back immediately. It's kind of offensive how quickly it comes back, isn't it?
No, it's interesting when you look at it. I used to have a friend that I would ride with, Kate. I think you'll appreciate this, that used to look at food as pennies per calorie because it was fuel for him when he rode. So it turned out a Taco Bell burrito for 90 cents was the most fuel that you could get for less than $1 to
Oh,
power your bicycle. Right. And believe me, he was not always fun to be around. But ultimately, um, ultimately, that was a lot of high octane burn to get those 10 points for Brett bon- Boniface there.
it
This is going to be
sure
now
is.
are two different groups. Hey, by the way, I don't know if Nathan, last week, Kate, we had a situation where Whitney Post, who's we're in with now, her partner is a guy named Michael Sweet, who's in the men's race. And I saw on Instagram last week they had a problem with the battery with their laptop. And I think that Michael was able this week to make sure the batteries were all charged up because at one point, Kate, if he was no longer in the top 40 and in the points, he was going to be asked to abandon his race and go plug in Whitney's laptop because she was down to like a couple percentage points of battery left. So, but he didn't have to,
How's
but he
that
was
for a
willing to.
technical out?
Yes.
That's commitment right there. I'll give you a gold star for that effort.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Well,
got to love
last
a
night we
couple race
had,
together.
I do, what do they say? Couples that ride together, stay together, or something like that. Now, let's take a look at the men. And I'm really curious on this. With it a bit smaller, I can't actually see what chit chat's going on, but I always do love a public chit chat. Dave, I love it when it is on screen. Oof, that sucks. Don't even know what he's talking about. Maybe just the sprint. That could be fine. Ivani, I pronounce it differently each week. We love him though. He's certainly highlighted on my sheet. Interesting to see him jumping off the front. He is with Bishop. I missed when they made this move. Nathan, in the background, can you tell me how this attack actually went? I'm quite curious about that. But again, I
just
just
just coming out of the
just
mall.
leaving the mall on the U-turn. Yes. And Dave,
Classic.
I don't know. I think that any attacks on this course have just got to be for points because I can't imagine that any of them actually have sights on staying away for the bulk of this race, especially when they're 13.8k in. They've got 38.2 odd kilometres of racing. This is not the kind of course where you can duck 30 seconds off the front and not get caught. But it is a good way, albeit a difficult way, to get some points.
Do you want me to create false controversy? Because I can't argue with the things that you're
Absolutely.
saying. No, Kate, I mean, come
Absolutely.
on. You're 100% correct. There is no doubt, and I love this. It's what we get. It's, again, points race reference. You get micro races going on within the race, and that's why that format, if you go to watch racing at the velodrome, the points race is the one that everybody, I'm sure some people love the sprint, the match sprint, but for me, points race is the best. And the double points and the value at the finish is always increased. But the plays and, trying to take a lap. And they've changed the rules in points racing to just try to keep it more exciting. And going a lap up or a lap down is obviously not going to happen here. But this is basically trying to steal a lap is what they're doing. They're going to get
It
10 and
is.
9 points.
Yeah.
And they should work together here. 10 and 9 points, there's basically no difference. It's the maximum bonification. They both, if they could split the points at 9.5, they probably would.
Yeah. Well, that's the shame in it. I think often they won't stay away for 2 sprints, but just one. And otherwise, I think they would share it. If you noticed on right of screen, Dave, the women just had another sprint. We'll take a look at a replay of that. because Ashley Yip was at it again, from what
Good
I could
grief.
see with one eye on each racing. So let's take a look at how this played
She's
out.
a machine. She is a machine, Kate Bates. I mean, Ashley Yip is going to get 4 gold stars from me out here today. You can see the Dutch Diesel Canadian here hitting out with authority. That's not even a photo finish. Dutch Diesel goes 1,
Geez, they went
2,
1, 2, 3
3.
across the line. Yeah.
Who do they think
4
they are,
maybe.
Mapei? Yeah, and I think 5 in the top 6.
I was going to say quick step, but that'll do. that was a bit dominant of them. And do you remember in the old days? I won't say the good old days, Dave. The old days when DDC weren't even a player in these
They
Zwift
were kind of
community
out. They were
leagues.
pretty.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, they were nothing special
yeah.
at that point, right?
And
Wow.
now look at them. My goodness.
Yeah,
Look at the shifty
I
eyes
love.
from Sosnowski. Ooh, tell us more about that.
Okay, boy, you can't take your eye off the ball for a second, because this is now we're going back to the front of the men's race as they're getting really, really close to another bonus sprint here, and the women are moving rapidly into their finale here. I wish we had a third race that we could try to cover, Nathan.
Yeah, not to give you more work to do, Nathan, but if you could get on that.
Like taking clips and making video replays and VTs, and this is great, having both races just so exciting.
And we're
away,
seeing
Kate?
what we saw last lap. Oh, I don't know that they will. I think it's coming down too much to the wire, although it's only Boniface who is the one bridging across. The bunch is still a little bit further back. So I think these 3 might take out that top 3. Once they cross that sprint line, it is quite a short jaunt to the finish. So I do think that they will in the end. Shame on me for saying they wouldn't.
Well, Kate, one thing that Nathan's incredible at a lot of things, but that camera work right there is just supreme. Giving you that feel for where the finish line is, where the group is in the chase, and nice work, Nathan. It is extremely cool to take a look at how this front group now, how aggressive this racing is. This course brings out the best in all of our fields. Kate, we've only seen a couple of races in only about, let's say, 5% of the time have they raced in that conservative mode, just racing, waiting for sprints. The rest of the day, it's been this attack, over the top, over, body blow, bike racing at its best.
It is fast racing. Yes, it is. And in both the women and the men, we're actually seeing a significantly faster race than what we saw in APAC. And I think the APAC mob were a little bit intimidated by what lay ahead. And they were a little bit more conservative in between. So we saw the women's be sitting at around the 30k an hour mark in between, whereas these ladies are a bit faster, bearing in mind that if you look at the screen right now and say they're only going 30, it's the same. They're also on a slight incline up. So give me a break. When they go flat again, it will increase. And it is a slightly bigger bunch as well, which helps for the fellas. It's a much bigger bunch at this point in the race, and so they are able to keep a little bit more momentum going there. Again, Whitney Post at the front. I always say on the front, near the front, not on the front. So we're going to take a little look at their in live pictures, Dave, because I love that. We get to see whether their avatars are matching their face.
So Michael Sweet, we were talking about just a few minutes ago, he and his partner Whitney Post are in Northern California. Not sure, Kate, in your time in America, if you got to spend much time in NorCal, but I really think it's one of the best parts of our country. And so they, I think that Nathan is able to go in cam. That's Whitney right there, and that's Michael's hand.
Get ready, let's go!
I wonder why his hand. Is he going to do the power up for her?
That's the power up. He's got to. That's got to be what that's about. Yeah.
All right, let's go.
He's one heck of a
everything you got. Let's go.
He is, and that's one heck of a setup. I mean, I'm personally a very big fan of a very big screen when I'm Zwifting, Dave, and I always find it kind of fascinating when people are doing it, racing on laptops or smaller screens or something. That
Well,
is really cool. I think this is team more than anybody realizes behind the scenes in a Zwift race.
I think it really is beautiful. I know that having a great partner in life, someone who shares your passion and has always got your back. Those two are a really inspirational couple for sure. Um, couples goals for a lot of folks out
Yeah,
there.
what do they
And you
say?
see that.
Teamwork makes the dream work, Dave.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks like it does around your house. That's for sure. Um, there's no doubt you've been challenged, like so many, through this COVID era with keeping kids entertained and keep feeding their minds as well as their bodies. Right? It's been a big challenge, I'm sure.
Yes, well, we all still maintained a shred of sanity, so I suppose in that way we're winning.
I'm proud of
Interesting,
you.
Dave, to look
Yeah.
at the. Thank you. Don't worry. I've thought about lumping up on your doorstep in Colorado, although not me, just the children. Express Post.
All of a sudden, I've
Look,
got
here you
a
go, Uncle
post
Dave.
delivery
Have
from
some fun.
Australia. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
The
Well, I
women are
totally get
about
it.
to sprint again, Dave. They're about to go under that red kilometre to go banner. If I am looking at the course correctly, albeit I feel like I'm looking at it upside down. That is my issue, not not the broadcast. And the fellas over on the left, again, they're keeping that pace pretty solid. There's not a whole lot of blobbing going on amongst them. It is still fairly strung out. The women go under that 1 kilometre to go to that sprint mark. So now begins the jockeying. Now, the last 2 laps, it's been Ashley Yip who has just jumped out quite explosively. I feel like her power profile might change a little bit at the end of today from this effort. She's really on a very good day. So let's see if they're wary of that, and perhaps some of the other teams have an idea of how to counter the dominance of DDC in the sprints so far.
I wish that we did more racing in this format, Kate, in real life, to tell you the truth. Creating almost these kermesse-sized circuits with these sprints. Think how great this would be to watch in real life. I am watching it in real life. This has been amazing, racers. So our gladiators now, the men are almost exactly 1 lap behind the women out here on course, as we're going to get another opportunity. There's that ghost power-up being used, Kate. That's going to be, is it Whitney Post? It is Whitney Post. Now, she tried this before. Let's see if she can pull it off this time. She's into the sprint zone, Kate. Come on, Whitney.
This is a big one from her. She might just make it. Joy Connolly and Laura Thompson are belting toward her. She does it. That is beautifully timed. Now, you know what I respect about that, Dave, is that she tried that earlier. It didn't quite work because of the timing, not about the horsepower that she has. And I love that she did that again, timed it a little bit better and held off, because Thompson and Connolly, they are absolutely nothing to sniff at in terms of their ability to explode in that final sprint and gain a lot of time. Now we're over to the men. They are also not too far from this sprint, Dave. We have seen really early moves in the earlier sprints, and it looks like that's what we're seeing again.
Kate, did you love winning or hate losing?
I loved winning.
Yeah. Interesting way to look at it, right?
I felt like maybe you wanted a longer answer there.
Nathan hates losing, right? So, I mean, it really is a mindset. Here we go. They're galloping. Now, look at this rocket ship right here, Kate. Holy cow. I mean, that man is lifting off of planet Earth. If he had wings, he'd be flying.
Wow, that he likes winning from the
He
look
likes
of that
winning.
sprint.
Yeah.
I actually, yeah, he does. Well, let's see. We'll get a replay of that if we can, because
That's
I'd love
insane.
to see how that unfolded. We didn't even have eyes on him as he
I don't know if they
exploded
have
out of the pack there.
nitrous.
That was very good.
I don't know if they do nitrous funny car racing down in Australia, but that's your car going from 0 to 200 miles per hour out there. I mean, that is a human rocket ship. Oh,
I feel
watch
like
out
I've
for
seen
B
it
Diddy.
on social media or something, Dave. I don't know though. I'll leave you to call this replay.
He's going in just a different world. It smells like nitrous fumes in London right now after that effort. And all of
That was
that
very
gets you
impressive.
10 points. So, I mean,
Yes, yeah, that's a lot of effort for 10 points. But no, that was very
have
well
you ever
done. And
seen,
when you asked, sorry, you go.
well, really quickly, Kate, there was a video on YouTube maybe 3-4 years ago, maybe even more than that, of a German track sprinter who was trying to create enough energy on his watt bike to make toast. So basically
I
create
did,
heat.
I did see that.
And it was, he barely was able to get a little bit of toast on the bread, right? I mean, that would have toasted. That sprint was a toaster.
That was, that was an almost burner, that one.
Yeah.
In terms of on the toast
Scraper.
scale of toast.
You have to scrape the bread after, right?
I like that. That's like a scale I think we should have, actually.
Yeah.
How toasted was the bread, between still soft and white versus a scraper. Yeah, thank you, Nathan. Get the production team right on that. Appreciate that.
Well, there was an
A
American
meme
racer
or
named Danny
something will do.
Summerhill. Yeah, Kate, who a waitress
Oh, I
asked
know
him
that
when he was with
name.
the team, the Garmin team, asked him how he liked his toast. She was like light or dark, and he said, "I don't know, toasted." So his nickname became Toast. So, all right, here we go.
I
Enough
like
toast
that.
talk. Yeah.
Enough toast
So,
talk. Hill is pushing off the front with Homer in tow. Now, you asked me before if I liked winning or hated losing. And I think I very much accepted that with the number of races I did, that there was always going to be times
can't
when
win
I
them
didn't
all,
win, and that
right?
I could learn from that. And so it's not that I loved losing. It's just that I did turn it into quite constructive. I'm a data person, Dave. I like
Well done.
numbers. I like to take the emotion out of it and just be very pragmatic about it, which I think helped me have a very long career, because otherwise you can burn out a little bit. Poor Nigel is asking if they get pulled out if you get lapped. Come on, Nigel. You got this. You'll be right. And I don't know the answer to that. Neither does William Rook. For that
So,
point.
Kate, I have a friend asking me your race resume. You were world champion in 2005. Is that correct in the points race?
2007.
7.
Close,
Okay.
though. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was quite an era
yes.
there. I
It
think
was. I
you'd agree
had
with
a good few years. Yeah.
this style of racing has got a lot of potential here. Charlie Eisendorf, who's our who helps select all of the courses that we race on, really hit a home run with the way that we start this season, and you look at the progression of the courses that we're going to be racing on. Very well done, and I know the athletes have to appreciate this. The sprinters are loving this last couple of weeks.
Yes. Well, look, they are, but I also think that on these kind of courses, it's not one for the climbers, that's for sure. Although we don't have that many pure climbers who really excel in the Zwift world. You have to be a bit more dynamic just because of the way the racing goes, regardless of what kind of course it is on.
For sure.
But I do think that if with all of we're seeing a different group of names on this points board so far, I think then we may see in that final sprint.
Yeah, we have to be a really well-rounded rider who has a sprint in your toolbox, but it can't be your only tool. You don't really see, Kate, the classic old school American criterium racing, which I know you know your way around. It wasn't your speciality, let's say, but there was a decent number of riders that would sit in the group and wait, trusting that there would be a field sprint. You can't do that here. You have to be attentive and pay attention to the splits, and every single time that we're sprinting for points, there's going to be some type of an attack, thereabouts in that last K. So it's not just your standard wait to 200 meters and sprint, repeat.
No, and I think the other real thing of note in Zwift is that you don't have to worry when you're thinking about positioning in sprints and positioning coming into final corners and such. You just have to worry about the physiology of it and making sure you accelerate in the right moments. You don't have to worry about the effect of bunches and whatnot. So the men and women are on very similar parts of the course. Now, Graham Hill,
Look at this.
he's opening up a very big gap. So that's very impressive. He will more than likely take the points on this one. And then I guess the question is, does he sit up afterwards? Does he push on? What does the bunch do? He's less than a minute
He's
away
got
from taking
14
those intermediate
seconds.
points now. Yeah, well,
If I'm
15
reading that,
seconds, Anna reckons, is the magic number, but yeah, it'll
well,
come down
it's
by the
magic
sprint,
then.
I would think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, I would agree.
yeah.
But this is so at about 10K of racing left. So he's now going to hit 2 laps to go at this point. Yeah, but unfortunately, that magic number, they can erase that pretty quickly with the power back in that peloton. But this is certainly noteworthy as he takes the 10 points. So that right there is huge. Can he carry on for another lap? Women sprinting.
Well, I think that's a big ask. Laura Thompson, I've been waiting for her to open up completely through this sprint. Whitney Post, she looked that was very conservative of her. I feel as though if Whitney had have gotten out of the seat, she might have just pipped Thompson. But given the profile of this course, they've got
She
one
might
lap
be
left to
feeling
go now. So, yeah. Oh, there's
Maggie
our
Mason.
see. That was a total scraper. That one, the sprint from
So
Thompson.
Whitney Post, she's got to be feeling it now. She has been very, very active. She might get my most aggressive racer today in the women's field here.
Yeah.
So
I think that would
good.
be well earned.
Great. So back in with the guys. So what kind of advantage does Hill have? Did he already come back into the group? Was that?
It
Might have been.
looks like he did. And that's what we're seeing happen, kind of no matter what gap they're having over that sprint, the speed differential for that chasing bunch is so big that they're rolling back onto the break very quickly. Of course, Hill did not need to sprint flat chat through that final couple of 100 meters because he did have that gap. So he did well in being conservative and sitting back. He's now in that main group, hopefully recovering a little bit to come into what is now the penultimate lap for them, for the men.
I think that speaks, Kate. There is no safe buffer that you can build up, right? Even at 2 laps of 30 seconds, you just can't sustain the effort required to hold these guys off. And look how they're dropping riders. You just don't see this much. It speaks to how aggressive the racing is. And I am sure that this dynamic is something that all of our esports racers love. Maybe not the ones getting dropped right now, but they're going to be stronger for that.
It is. I find it equally as and rightly pointed out there, Dave. I do think it is equally as interesting to look at the back of the bunch and see what's happening there, because sometimes you can look at the front and say it doesn't look too aggressive. Now the women are in their final lap, so they only have one sprint left to go. I think this will be a bit of a cat and mouse here coming into that final lap. Dave, talk us through these points, because Dutch Diesel is certainly doing very well, but Laura Thompson has catapulted her way up that points board.
Yeah, good for her. As you can see that she's in that conversation. But my goodness, Dutch Diesel with 5 of the top 8 spots, 4 of the top 5. And you mentioned Daniela Torelli at the start of the show. She is on fire today. Yip also has been picking up sprint after sprint. And certainly, I have to say, as an American, the Canadians have been more than impressive. I mean, if this was a Nations Cup, Canada has been kicking butt.
For an American, I hope that's not hard to say. I'm not in the same way that
really
I say to Anna,
me.
well,
yeah.
all right, yeah. Last night I said to Anna, oh, well, that was a Kiwi, well done.
Yeah.
Kind of, accepted that it happened.
Yeah, you guys work very well together, all things considered. That's for sure.
Oh, look, it's it's the Cuzzy bros are always kind of half Australian, Dave.
Hey, could you, for someone like that doesn't understand the relationship between New Zealand and Australia, how would you describe that for someone else around the world? Almost like a family, where it's like
Mm,
you make fun of each other,
almost like
uh,
family. Yeah. Yeah, that's
but you know,
exactly right. We claim each other. That's for sure. When
I
a
can make
Kiwi
fun of New
wins
Zealand, right? But yeah,
something, we can. Yes. Well, and look, the other thing from just a very practical point of view, Dave, is if you hold a New Zealand passport, you can come and live in Australia without a visa, and get full access
oh,
to Medicare and everything as though you were an Aussie. So we have that
I didn't know that.
reciprocity, which makes it very easy to go between the two countries. And they are talking about making it a domestic flight from Australia to New Zealand.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
yeah, so we are kind of cousins. Let's say
And
that.
it's a great point to note that you get a lot more out of supporting each other and being on the same page and sharing resources and cooperating than you do by fighting with each other, which clearly you do a great job
This
with.
is
So,
right.
yeah, back to the exact opposite of that. All of these teams are looking out for their interest and couldn't really care too much about the others, I would say. That's bike racing at its best. You definitely have to look out for number one out here. And I
Yeah.
get a feeling as we're into the last 2.5K, looks like we're going to have a finale royale.
Well, I have to say that my favourite in here for this final sprint would be Laura Thompson. Um, on paper, she's certainly incredibly solid in this kind of finish, but it's also impressed me how she's been thereabouts, but hasn't necessarily thrown the gauntlet down too much. Torelli, we haven't seen a lot of, which is interesting. Now, this late attack from Salthouse using the ghost, beautifully done, Kat. And when I made
Chef's
that noise, I
kiss.
forgot my face wasn't on the screen, so that might have sounded a bit odd, people. I was just saying beautiful job, Kat, because that is perfectly timed attack there for her. They have some really good sprint hopes with Joy Connolly, but it is also very helpful for Joy to have the teammates pushing the pace. Danny Torelli, I would think, in just pure power, would be the one that everyone has eyes on. Now, she hasn't been too visible today, Dave. That's for one of two reasons, I'm guessing, that are quite opposite. She's either feeling very good and just waiting for the finish, or she is not quite feeling at her best tonight and is just sitting back and seeing how she goes at the end. If these gaps keep opening up, that might change the state of play quite significantly, but otherwise, Thompson is
Not
sitting
a
pretty. Joy Connolly also in a great spot. And
not a normal
Janelle
field
Yiller.
sprint. Look at this. I mean,
No,
this
I
is going
don't
to be a
know. I think this is
jailbreak
going to
here
come
from
back
Dutch
together a
Diesel.
bit, though.
I
Yeah,
don't
I mean,
know. Dutch
Janelle Yiller,
Diesel.
she started well, didn't she, Dave, in the first sprint? And she's right up there. So I think she's just managed to get the good wheel, but she's on the wheel of Laura Thompson. And Kat Salthouse is doing a great job in there of just keeping that pace up.
Look at this. This is going to be interesting. You're right. It does look like it's going to start coming back together. 1K to go. What a I mean, we haven't really seen anything quite like this in a while. Small split
Hold
being
on, Dave.
welded back
Here's
together.
a question. If Whitney Post is saying close it down, who's she talking to? Because if she's talking to a teammate, I'm not thinking they're doing it openly. And if she's talking to anybody else, I think that that's pretty well engineered that she can throw that out there, and they do actually listen to her and chase.
Well, this is very
It has come
it's a
back together.
Jedi
And
mind tricks.
Abernathy, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Abernathy's kind of leading from the front, and Keskinen, who was pretty fast in some of the intermediate sprints, but this is a very long way out to go. And I think our winners are just sitting back at the moment, waiting for the right time to make the move. Too early for Alison Grinnell. She's such a good rider, but they haven't even hit that sprint line yet, Dave.
I love it. That's the way to do it. Say, hey, collective brain trust, Watt trust, get out there and chase this down for me. I want to sprint, but Dutch Diesel has hit out Kate with authority. Can they sweep the top 3 spots, or even better? This is an absolute avalanche of Dutch Diesel. 1, 2, 3, 4 for Dutch Diesel out here. Command performance. What a finale. That really leaves no question marks about that one.
Well, look, Dave, I don't mean to rub it in with our. I love that. That's our new thing. And we're going to have to get the replay there, because I don't mean to rub it in to the America West time zone, but I reckon Megan Alexander might have taken that out, and she's an Aussie.
Is that right? Well.
It is right.
Is she an Aussie living in North America?
Well.
Is she on loan living in America, or is she in Australia right now?
Look, I don't believe so. I think she's in Australia, Dave. But it's just a great time zone for us Aussies. It's just after lunchtime on a Wednesday. So, most of us are still working from home. Oh, it's close, though. I was about to almost swear. Come on, Megan, you're making me all antsy here. Oh, I think she just got rolled by Ashley Yip.
What a day Ashley had out here.
Geez, I know. What a ride from her.
And Daniela Torelli as well. Daniela might have taken more points than any other rider. And just like that, we're going to have to jump in and pick up the guys because they're down to 3.4K to go. So this is their finale now.
Ooh-wee. All righty. Well, we've just got a little bit of excitement there. All right, Dave, we need to almost stand up, shake the legs about, and get ready for a final sprint here. I'm feeling pretty good. I've got good sprint legs on today. I reckon this is going to be a little bit of a cracker. And I think Nathan's going to have to get that toast meme ready again. Before we get into the sprint, Dave, I need help. The Jurachiches, tell me they're related. They have to be related, Zach and Isaac.
I mean, I would bet dollars against donuts that they would. That they are, for sure. But we will find out. I did get to the bottom of the Molly Liz Van Houweling situation. I've got actual confirmation from Molly herself. So Molly's, yes, well, from the horse's mouth, as they say. Molly's husband, his cousin, is married to Liz Van Houweling. So they're cousins-in-law, basically. So, yes, well, here we go. This is it. Finale comes up very quickly. Someone's got to attack with that ghost power up.
The Jurachiches, on paper, are the hands-down favourite just from a pure speed perspective. But Travis Frazier, Dan Pedrosa, Ivani, of course, Philippe Nystrom.
I like P. Diddy.
Pretend to not be biased, but I just love him. Well, Brian Diddy, but I can't help but call him P. Diddy. So
monster.
Apologies, Brian, if I call you P. Diddy in the sprint. That's,
Yeezy,
you've got to get used to us Aussies by now. We've got some pretty big watts to be thrown out here, haven't we?
Yeah, and there's Brett Boniface back as well. But certainly Brian Diddy over the last couple of weeks has shown he's an absolute monster in the yellow jersey for the Friday Criterium. Last week it was Philippe Nystrom, and Philippe's got his sprinting legs bolted on, Kate, as he's ready to contest now. These guys are locked and loaded.
Well,
this is not a drill.
Crossworlds aren't too far away. Philippe would be on excellent form. If he's not, well, I imagine he would be really coming into it. Exactly. So that's exciting. I think that he could have a good one here. I am literally rubbing my hands together here, Dave. This is like a beautiful across the road, everybody looking at everybody's sprint. I'm just kind of willing somebody on from the back to drop their ghost. There he is, P. Diddy. Woo! I think that's P. Diddy. I'm not really cool enough to know. I want somebody to drop their ghost at the back and hit them here, Dave. And I want them to just make that Hail Mary attack under that ghost. So let's see. Let's see if anybody cares to listen and gives it a go.
I feel like it's inevitable.
Fortune favours the brave. Yes. But they are just positioning, aren't they? Whoever is first to hit out, it will be messy, it will be ugly, but they will absolutely set it up for the rest of the big hitters in this bunch. A lot of watts there, Dave. I feel like I'm a little bit too excited today, so I'm going to leave you to call this sprint, but Sosnowski is the first to move.
And he is a stone-cold killer, Kate Bates. Sosnowski is going to be extremely dangerous. The alarm bells are ringing all over the shop. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. It's been an incredible day on this London Classique course. And right here, right now, it's going to be Sosnowski of the Izetta STE team. But watch how rapidly they try to close this down. The Wolves are galloping now into the final few meters. That's going to be P. Diddy. P. Diddy maybe has enough. It's Jurisic on his wheel. Will it be Brian Diddy? It looks like he's going to close out the deal. The Friday Criterium rider trying to hold on. Final few meters, P. Diddy in the house. Boom, boom, out go the lights. Woo!
Oh, geez, we have a bit of fun with this. That was, my goodness. And I was quietly, as you were naming everybody, having a bit of a giggle about how inappropriate some of our nicknames are for everybody, between P. Diddy and Mr. Boniface, our mafioso, yes. And we've got our Stonekill Killer and Sosnowski. We promise these are affectionate names, guys. We are enjoying watching the racing.
Yeah. You would think, listening to us, that these guys are some true career felons out here.
Yes.
They're some. But man, what a race, guys!
It's not on me that I wouldn't recognise them in the grocery store. This was a great move by Sosnowski. He hit out early. We knew that was going to be a bit dangerous. Boniface, I almost thought he might hold on to this, but that pure speed by Diddy, followed by Jurisic. We know that he was one of my favies for this sprint, but he couldn't quite get there because Diddy did not relent from that power until the end. I think, in fact, Jurisic needed to go a bit earlier. He kind of missed that jump and was left chasing a length or two back. That was a fantastic sprint. Dan Pedrosa, I'm getting too excited. Dan Pedrosa also had a pretty good sprint there in the finish. Dave, if somebody could tell us if the Jurisics, that's quite a mouthful, are related, that's the fact I'd like to know for next week. But Dave, fortune didn't really favour the Brave this week at all, actually. When you hit out early, you paid for it. Let's take a look at the results and you can talk us through what happened in that A from 1 to 10.
Live by the sword, die by the sword, Kate Bates. Right? I mean, that's what fortune favors the brave mean. It doesn't mean it works out every time, but it certainly, well, speak of fortune favoring the brave, how about Dutch Diesel? They were brave and dominant in every sense out here, as they will sweep the top four. The Australian in fourth place with Megan Alexander, but Megan is awesome having you racing with us. The Canadians, it was their day for sure. Ashley Yip, you are a superstar, as she will take the win. Her teammate Daniela Torelli was a points machine today, Kate Bates. And then Pat Murray ending up in third. The chocolate medal, so gold, silver, bronze, fourth place at the Olympics. I think they give a chunk of chocolate because it's a bummer to not be
Dave,
up on the block.
I was 3 times I was fourth at the Olympics, and I can tell you nobody gave me chocolates. The only thing I got was a drug testing person following me around for the rest of the day.
You got a cup.
So that's, you
got a cup and a
yeah. And somebody creepy looking at me. Sorry.
Yes.
Carry on.
Laura Thompson, who was one of the stars that Kate noted today, certainly gets a gold star for a great race on the Cadence team. Janelle Yila in sixth for Dutch Diesel. Megan Deutscher in seventh. Brittany Keskinen. And they're both with West Coast Coalition B. Great job, Megan and Brittany. Stephanie Shu for Team F3 FBW ends up in ninth, and then Camilla Rutford in 10th. I take my hat off, though, to all of you. You are the gladiators of esports. It's really fun to be with my colleague Kate Bates and Nathan Guerra and have a chance to call these races. That's what it's all about today. Thank you, ladies.
Oh, I'm loving it. I'm so happy to be back and see these names. Summertime. See, we got an Aussie for the win, even if it was in the Seas, Dave. This is a great time zone for us. From Dutch Diesel Cycling, Atomic Kittens, they took 1-2 in the Seas as well. Sarah Northway in second. Marcy Varley from the herd of misfit Meerkats was third ahead of her teammate, Kari Bartlett. Whitney Stidham from DDC Atomic Kittens, that's a very familiar name. Great to see her back. And Tammy Taylor, also from the Atomic Kittens. They're kind of finishing in pairs there. In seventh, Cindy Maloney from the Coalition Synthesis. In eighth, we've got another Aussie, Tammy Cook from DDC. Looks like DDC have some pretty good Australian representation across B and C. Leonie Kelly from Revo Musketeers finished in ninth with her teammate, Kelly Roloff rounding out that top 10.
It looks like someone said, everybody make sure you have a buddy on your team when you go to the finish. No one finish alone. Have a
Yeah,
buddy.
yeah.
Right. No. So there is no D. So that's a good look at the women out here racing today as we wrap up our London Classique Race 2 on WTRL. Let's go take a look at the men now as Brian Diddy delivers the gold standard. Fantastic job for the TFC Scorpion rider at the Friday Criterium with a big win here, and he certainly didn't mess around with 4.5 watts per kilo today. Zach Jurisic ends up in second for Oh My God, They Killed Kenny. On the Rivet Rush, the team for David Amato. Fourth place going to the aforementioned Dan Pedroza, also on Oh My God, They Killed Kenny. Then John Van Der Veen for Dirty Rascals Riot, fifth. It's going to be, actually, they tied there for fourth today. So Oh My FG, they Fed Cartman is the team for Max Matsanoff in sixth. It's Bill and
Fed
seventh.
Cartman. Sorry to have a laugh at that.
I knew you were going to laugh. Dirty Rascals Riot is the team for seventh place, and Bill IV. It's Brett Boniface in eighth for Izetta SDE. TFC Scorpion is Trev Daddy's team in ninth. And then Philippe Nystrom, Costa Rica flag represented. Philippe, I don't know. I'm going to have a chance to see you or talk with you before World. So good luck. We're really proud of you at World Championships of Cyclocross to Philippe Nystrom for Oh My God, They Killed Kenny.
Yeah.
That's your top 10.
Agreed, Philippe. We are fully behind you. I can't wait to follow him racing for there. Now, we don't have the other results through, Dave, but what we will do is send everybody to WTRL.racing to take a look at how those results have played out. I can also confirm, thank you, YouTube family, that the Juricics are father and son. So I'm assuming that Zach is the father and Isaac is the son. I tell you what, their power profiles are starting to get scarily close. And I think that Zach is going to want to keep pushing pretty hard. Otherwise, we might see young Juricic taking over that podium spot. Dave, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. I always have a blast, and thank you to our riders for doing a sensational job. Again, we'll be back next week. Dave, they're headed to New York. A little bit more climbing, a little bit of a tougher week.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.